Hey everybody, how you doing? This is John Kubaska with the Foxbody down here. Tonight I'm joined by my co-host Carl Melendez from 631 Coatings, and we've got a guest here that we see around on the Foxbody groups, and I've been watching him for about a year now. And I don't think you've done a podcast yet, have you, David Benson?
No, no. This is my first. Thanks for
So
having me.
we've Ryan and myself and Carl here. We've been talking about getting you on because you post a lot there, but nobody's giving you the opportunity really to tell your story, talk about your cars and stuff like that. So, David Benson, welcome aboard, man.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So, David, start with the first question, which we do with most of our guest interviews. Tell us about how you got into Fox Bodies originally.
Yeah, so I'm probably one of the older guys that's around. Um, I've been playing with these things since they were brand new. The Ford Motorsport catalog, the leaded cams, the B cams, the F cams. And it just went up from there. Guys started making these things just go quicker and quicker and quicker from stock. And back in the day, that's what it was all about. They were all nice because they were all new. you know. So it was just a matter of, modding the engine a little bit. Guys would put leaded cams in, aluminum heads, a shot of nitrous on it, and head up to the track and just slay people,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what it was all about in the late '80s, early '90s, you know. And then as the cars got older, and they needed to be restored, then it kind of took a little bit of a turn, People started customizing them more, interiors and paints, early 2000s, once things started wearing out. But just been in the Fox game, you know,
Since the late 80s.
so yes, essentially, since probably right around 1990 is when I had my first Fox, so,
Okay.
so 36
So
years, yeah.
so 1990 you had your first Fox body. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it was a 90 LX, actually a hatchback. Even though everyone knows me for the coupes, it was a hatchback. It was blue. I had it for about 2 years. Did all the basic mods to it. Put some 355 gears in it, some shorty headers, a B cam, and just had a blast with it. Just beat the bag out of it, and um, just enjoyed it. I was hooked from there. Back back in the early '90s, it was, you know, your best bang for your buck when it came to making a car fast. You could just do a few. A letter cam was 150, 160 bucks. You could buy a set of trick flow heads for, 700 bucks,
Hmm.
and the cars would just scream at that point.
Did you do a lot of the wrenching yourself, or you had a local shop that helped you?
Yeah, I had a buddy that had a shop. I never really, wrenched heavily on the cars. There was a local place where I was in town. It was called Strictly Stangs, and they were big into the Fox bodies. And like I said, relatively short money, you could, make these cars super fast back in the day.
When things were a bit more reasonable as opposed to now?
Oh, a lot more reasonable.
Yeah.
A lot more reasonable. Like I
So
said, you could buy an intake head cam and be at like 1,200 bucks and pay somebody 400 bucks to put it in. 1,600 bucks, you picked up 100 wheel.
Mm-hmm.
and then you had 270 rear wheel horsepower.
That's where the nitrous bottle came in.
Oh, would you have 100 shot? So yeah, and then you were king of the streets, running what, 12s, 13s back then?
Yeah, 12.7, 12.8. Fun fact: I was the first person in Massachusetts with a Fox body to have a Pro Charger.
Okay.
Um, my white coupe back in '94. I ordered a Pro Charger kit for it, um, and then I got a 351 Motorsport motor right from Ford, crate motor, 351 Windsor, and we dropped that in and slapped the Pro Charger on it. That's my old white car right there. Yeah.
Right there, right?
Yep. 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 And that's the
That's
one.
in
Well,
that's in 1994.
Yeah, so late '94, beginning of '95, we dropped the 351 crate motor in it, put the Pro Charger on it, and man, that car really went.
You got the,
Had the old cell side lift bars on it, you know, for the rear suspension. Um, Headers, the H pipe, and the car ran like I think the best time was like 11.7 at 118.
mhm.
So it was moving back in the day.
That was fast back then, yeah.
It was quick, yeah.
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 11.7s, wow. Yeah.
Now you get 10-second daily drivers.
Yeah.
That's incredible, right? You think
Yeah.
about it, just goes to show how old
I
we're
know.
getting, right?
Technology's amazing.
Yeah.
Were any of those Foxes a daily driver for you, or you had always a second car?
Initially in the beginning, the blue one that I had and that white coupe, that was my daily driver. Even with the Pro Charger on it, I daily drove that thing. Luckily, I only worked 3 miles from my house and, tooled around. Things were a little different back then, know. But I did drive that thing every day. Every day.
Every single day. When gas was cheap, parts were cheap, labor was cheap, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's so funny. I remember 2 years ago, coming up on 2 years ago now, when I had first acquired my Saline when it was old bone stock, driving 3 hours to Carlisle, and I'm cruising down 78 in New Jersey, going west, and this lady pulls up next to me. Her kids are hanging out the window like, nice car, and I'm like, you give them a thumbs up, and they're young, they're probably like 8, 9, 10 years old, but they like the car. And then she just took off on me, man, in a minivan, and I was just like, I just looked at her and I was like, oh my God, this thing. I tried to keep up. The minivan was dogging it. I was like, man, I got to do something to this car. But it's incredible,
That's funny.
with the cars. So you had your GT, right?
LX,
And
yeah.
then, oh, I'm sorry, your LX,
Yep.
and then you had your notchback.
Yep.
And then what about after that? I mean, I see quite a few cars there in your
Yeah,
time.
so after that, I took a little hiatus for a while, married, kids, and then I got back into the game a little bit later on. Back
What
in,
year was this? Yep.
trying to think, probably 2000, I want to say 2009 maybe. I bought an SN95. I bought a 95 Cobra that had a Pro Charger on it. The guy that had it had about a half dozen Mustangs, and he was making way for a new Shelby GT500.
Uh-huh.
That was a really nice car, and I proceeded to rip it apart and hot rod it out. Dropped a 306 in it. First, I had a problem with the Pro Charger when I got it from the guy. I'd get it on the highway and lay into it, and all of a sudden the check engine light would come on and start misfiring, blinking. Long story short, the Pro Charger, the seal went on the main shaft. Sent it back to Pro Charger, had it rebuilt, put it back in the car, cleaned all the oil out of all the piping, put it back together, did one dyno pull on it, got it tuned right, drove it down the road. Within 50 miles, Pro Charger shit the bed again. I said, get this thing off of here. So I put a turbo kit on it, 76 millimeter turbonetics. Car made like 530 to the tire, and it was just a fun, great car. I
How
know-
long?
I
How
know
long
you guys talk
Yeah,
about the SN95s a lot in the group.
Mm-hmm.
They always get dogged on. A lot of, not a lot of love for them out there. But anyone that's ever owned one, they're great cars.
They really are. Yeah, they're
So much more
badass cars.
refined than a Fox.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Better
What-
ride quality. Just overall a better car, really.
Why do you think they got such a bad rap back in the 90s? What's your opinion on that?
I think they were looked at more not I won't say luxury, but I think everybody knew, technology back then, like I said, everything was about going fast. It wasn't really the aesthetics of it. It was about quick. This is my opinion anyway. And the Fox was just, a few 100 pounds lighter, and that's what people went with when they went to mod them, And the SN95, the prices weren't ridiculously high, but they were, slightly higher than your base LX or, what have you from the late 80s, early 90s.
So being that you're a coupe guy, right?
Yep.
Obviously, you search online for these cars and you're looking for vehicles to acquire. How many of them you running through that were ex-race cars that people try to hide and put them into street cars. A lot.
Yeah, you get that for sure, you know. And you know, nowadays especially to go look at a car, it's like you know, most of them at this point have been so beat. It's so hard to find a good car nowadays. You know, if you know the torque boxes aren't ripped out of them, they're just crusty and rusty everywhere. I mean, there are very few clean cars left out there.
Yeah.
You're up in Mass, right? So
Yeah.
you got you're in the the.
Oh yeah, yeah. They
What
salted the roads back in the day, you know.
Now it's brine, right? Brine they use.
Yeah, yeah, and you know the towers are always rotted out of them. You know, no matter how nice they look, you crawl under them and you start reaching around, you're like, ugh. So it's so hard to buy a car nowadays, you know, without getting it up in the air and actually see what's going on.
Yeah. What's the last car you looked at off of Facebook Marketplace?
No, I stay away from that.
Really?
There were a few years where I was kind of like trying to buy some stuff and either taking better parts out of it and or trying to flip them, but it's.
You were trying to flip Foxbodies there for a while. Were you?
At one point, I had gone through a few and bought and sold a few, and but like I said, I have a little bit of a conscience. So like when I get a car and I see all this stuff wrong with it, like I just can't pass it along. I end up fixing too much or going through too much, and then you're buried in the car. You can't sell it. But yeah, it's so hard nowadays to buy a Fox, unless you know the car, know where it came from, and someone spent a ton of money on it. And, just that topic alone, I mean, I don't have to tell you, Carl, you're the man when it comes to throwing money at these. And you too, John, with the Re-Blue, I mean.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, the money is just, it's
Yeah,
just crazy. If you don't do the work yourself.
A lot of the aftermarket they're really catering to these platforms, so to speak. So they make a lot of things really easy, but purchasing this stuff is not cheap,
Right.
I mean, there are cheaper solutions to achieve a look or a ride height or something to that nature, but overall the performance is not there. If you're finding a cheaper solution, it's not going to, like an LMR brake kit is not going to be the same as on a Bear or a Willwood.
Sure.
Suspension-wise, the same way from these companies like RideTech, Detroit Speed, whether it's Roadster Shop Chassis, all these companies, they're making things where they're taking the thinking out of, doing an install. They did all the R&D. So that's what you're paying for. You're paying for time and research, that it took these guys to make spindles or a front end or upper and lower control arms for a Fox. There's R&D, like everyone's sitting there. You'll read some of the comments online. They'll say, "Oh, it's not worth it to do this, do that." Yeah, Maximum Motorsport is one option, and it's a great option. That's what I was using in the red car prior to me changing it over. But the diversity that you have now to be able to choose several different manufacturers to provide you with the height, the ride quality, the performance, it's there now, where it wasn't when I was growing up. People were heating springs up, cutting a coil out,
Yeah, that's how you load them.
iBox sold a spring. It was either a sports spring or a pro spring. If it wasn't low enough, you pull out the torch to lower the spring and freeze it so it doesn't go any further. Those
One
were the
side
things.
of the car's tilted a little bit more than the other because you heated it up too much.
Yeah. Yep.
It's true.
Put someone in the back seat on the passenger side. There you go over there, even the car out. Yeah.
And they actually had a fix for that. If you remember, David, they had that piece you put inside the spring that you would turn it, and it would raise the car if you went too far.
Yep.
Well,
then if you hit a good sized bump and the spring traveled and opened too much, it would pop out.
Yep. Yep.
Oh my God.
So and when you were younger, you didn't have the availability of this access to so many different manufacturers providing so many different components.
Yeah.
Even back
I mean, you were fabbing shit from in your driveway or in the garage.
Yeah,
You were,
yeah.
yeah, you were making do with the little that we had back
Yeah,
then.
it's unfortunate growing up. I grew up a little bit on the poorer side of things, so you kind of made things yourself, and I had to fix a lot of the stuff myself in order to get the look that I wanted. And at
Right.
18, 19 years old, whether it was a Foxbody, I was into a lot of GMs back then, but you found ways to achieve the look you wanted at a fair price.
Right.
Fast forward 35, 40 years later, and here we're at. Manufacturers are making these parts, and the guys that own them can now afford to buy the parts to make the car they want. They should have made when they were 18, 19 years old.
Right.
So there's no doubt that there's just a larger aftermarket supply of manufacturers and parts like that. But when you're looking for a car, David, are you looking for like a clean, low mileage original? Are you looking for a clean car that maybe you knew the person or a friend of a friend that poured a lot of money into it with quality parts? I mean, I know you bought and sold quite a few cars. That's why I'm going down this path
Yeah,
with you. What are you really looking for when you're searching for a Foxbody?
It was funny. I had that Calypso coupe, and it was bone stock. I mean, down to plug wires and filters, and it was very strange to me. After modifying these cars for so many years, to get behind the wheel of a bone stock car and turn the key and go down the road, I was like, wow, this is kind of refreshing, because you get in them and it's, all the noise and, the smell of raw fuel and, you're tooling down the road and it's just, it was like, wow, it was like a throwback in time the first time I got behind the wheel of that car and drove it down the road. I was like, wow. This is what they were actually like. It had been so long, I forgot.
So this
So many years of just, the name of the game was modify, modify, modify,
So this Calypso coupe here, I'm sharing it on the screen. This was a low mileage stock car here that you were?
All stock. All stock.
All stock. I see you threw some CCWs on it here
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
in
and
the
had
photo.
chrome-
Let's
chrome
talk.
pony
I mean,
on
this
it.
is a beautiful car. When did you purchase this car, David?
Ah, jeez. I'm not sure what year it was. I had it for probably like 3 years, and then I sold it locally. Went to a guy local.
And I see a May 2024. Is that around the year that you sold it? About 2 years ago?
Yeah, probably something like that.
And do you remember what you paid for it?
I don't. I think it was like 23,000 maybe. I paid for it.
And how much money did you put into it?
Actually, the only thing I did to that car, well, I took those wheels off when I sold it. I put the LMR chrome ponies on it, and I sold those wheels separately. But I really didn't do anything to that car. I think we did a power steering pump on it. Power steering pump was a little noisy when I got it.
Mm-hmm.
But that was it.
And what'd you sell that car for?
I think it was 30 grand. A few years later.
You didn't lose money in that car.
No. But the prices now of cars are just, for something that's nice, it's just crazy.
Did that have black interior, that car? That
No,
Calypso?
had a gray gut.
Okay. I can't see that from the photo.
Yeah, it had a gray
What do
interior.
What do you think that car sells for today in 2026?
I don't know. Jeez.
That Calypso.
Close to 40 probably.
For 2 years, it's gone up 10 grand.
Yeah.
Think about that, John. I sold my car to Pat for 30, right?
Your black
My
coupe.
black coupe. I paid. I think it was 22 for it. Like 5 years ago. I sold it to my friend for pretty much what I bought it for. Then I bought it back. Kept it for a little while. Then Pat bought it for 30. Pat sold it for 35. Now this guy stripped the car, took the wheels off it, a bunch of other things. He's asking 45 for it. I mean, I guess there's a market. It doesn't have the CCWs on it anymore. I think it's
Yeah,
45. I think
he bought it. Yeah, he bought a different car. He bought I think he bought a red Coyote swap car, and then he put those.
Oh, you followed the vehicle?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't sell it to that guy. Pat sold it to someone because he was asking me about. He wanted to do a Coyote swap on the car, and
Yeah.
the car was clean. The car was straight. The car was as nice as I could possibly make it.
Right.
This is the same guy. The same guy that Pat sold it to owns it today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Joey.
Yes.
Joey D'Amelio. Yeah.
Right. So I think he bought another car instead of building that one.
He did. He bought it's a red coupe that was owned by that comedian. What was the comedian's name or something like that? The comedian. I was talking to Joey about this. The guy, the previous owner of that red coupe, was a famous comedian, and he dumped a shit ton of
I don't
money
know
in
the
it.
history of the car. I know the car when it came up for sale. One of those high-end dealers. They had it for astronomical amount of money.
It was out in California, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So he just purchased that car, from what I understand. It's Coyote swapped that car.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Coyote swapped, and then he just took the CCWs off of
Yeah.
Carl's old car, I believe, and put them on there, and put the other wheels on there, and
Yeah.
now he's looking to unload the black car.
He's looking to unload the black car.
Yeah.
And yeah. So what was in that black coupe, Carl? Was it just a 302, 306?
306 TKO AFR heads. At the time, remember I told you I bought all that Detroit Speed stuff. That was the car that was going to get it. That I was waiting for the front end. So we put a little bogus set of Raceland coilovers in it, just to give me the ride height on the CCWs. And I winded up selling the car before the suspension came, because that front SLA kit was on back order for like 2 years. I couldn't wait no more. So when they wouldn't obviously give me a refund, so I waited till the parts came. They're sitting here. And that suspension will go in that teal cover up on top when the red part.
So talking about black coupes, David.
Yeah.
All right. Carl owned one. I now own one. Right, which is it's probably, well, between that and my Saline, it's two of my favorite cars. But you own a badass black coupe too, man. You want to talk about that?
I've had 3 of them at one time.
Three?
I got a
Have
thing
you
for-
really?
Yeah, I got a thing for black coupes.
Okay.
So this is your third black coupe?
The one that I still have currently. I've had for a long time. Probably going on, gosh, I don't know, close to 15, 16 years, something like that. 16 years, I guess I've had this car for. And it's gone through a few different transformations over the years. I took a perfectly good setup, and one October I decided I was just going to tear the whole car apart. I got a good deal on a Bennett small block motor from Bennett. Was in the crate, and that started the transformation. From there, I went down the rabbit hole, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
You were just bored?
I went deep on it. I mean, we got this car right down to the shell. There wasn't a nut, bolt, or wire on it, and just started the process from the ground up.
So you completely stripped the car.
Completely stripped it, everything out of the car. I mean,
This
it
is
was just
this
an
is the car I'm
empty-
sharing on the screen right now, David?
Yeah,
Okay. All
just
right.
just an empty shell.
How was the paint?
You know. The paint on the car actually wasn't bad, but we took it right down to the metal, and totally redid the whole car. PPG. I forget the color code,
UA.
but it's a real deep black.
Is it a Ford color? Factory it would be UA.
No, it's not. I don't know. I'd have to ask the paint guy. I don't know the exact color code of the car, but like, it's just a real deep, deep black. Like, I have other cars next to it that are black, and they don't even look black when they're next to it. Like, it's so deep.
So this photo here from 2024, is this before the gut? No, this is after.
No, the build now is a few years old. I think we completed it. We started in like 2016 maybe, and I think it got finished up in like 2018. So it's been together now about 8 years. A
Well,
couple subtle transformations. When I initially did it with the 427 Windsor, I put a twin turbo kit on it, custom fabricated from BG in Ohio. But for drivability wise, it was just so much heat under the hood. It's just the temperatures were just killing everything under there. Even though the pipes are all coated and blankets on the turbos, and it was just too much heat under the hood, cooking all the wires. And so I ripped the turbo kit off of it, and now it's got a Pro Charger F1A94 on it.
Yeah.
Back to
The
Pro
idea.
Charger, huh?
What's that?
Back to Pro Charger.
Yeah.
Funny how we come full circle. I think Tom War Admiral was talking about that today, about the turbos and the heat and stuff like that. And in the War Admiral car there, he was talking about that today on his podcast with his guest.
Yep.
And I think I may be wrong, but I think he had some issues with it, like killing out the alternator there, because the alternator was right by the turbo and stuff like that. That seems to be a common issue with the turbo cars.
I love the turbo cars, but if you're gonna do some driving in them, you gotta either mount the turbos down low and have everything come down low, like on the S550 cars. That's most of the S550 cars. Well, at the beginning they had the top mount turbo kits, but now everything is down near the transmission, and the head is face down, so all that heat is away from everything up top.
Yeah.
Which is a great idea.
Yeah. So I also see I seen a black 4i coupe. You mentioned that you had a couple of black coupes. Is that one of the other ones you're talking about there? Yeah.
I had the black, it was an 84 4i Coyote swap. It was a Gen 1 motor. I was actually surprised. It made 406 at the rear wheel on a 102 degree day. Smoking hot that day. It was on the dyno. I couldn't believe it. And I sold that to a guy. I think he was in Arizona. But it was a cool little car. It had
106 degree day in Arizona is like winter out there.
Yeah,
so
right?
you tell them, hey, it did 400 over 400 horse on the dyno here in Mass.
That
and
had a horrendous, ugly, plaid interior in it. It was an interior only a mother could love.
so let's talk about that, because Ryan and I we've alluded to the term bland chicken.
Yep.
On this podcast a couple of times, and he's told me you kind of, I don't know if you've coined that phrase, but you seem to be more of a traditionalist when it comes to the look of Foxbody, right? So you just mentioned had a plaid interior. Same thing with the wheels. Let's talk about let's talk about that. Maybe some of the new trends that you're seeing. And
I mean, my personal taste, I just like a clean paint, no graphics. I like either a polished wheel or a chrome wheel or even a black wheel. Interior wise, to me, there's nothing better than a bone stock black interior.
Clean
Bone stock black interior. No, no gauges mounted up the pillar and across the dash and in the vents.
You don't like that? I think that's cool, man. No, that's Carl just looked away.
No, I didn't look away. Remember the Brady Bunch? I'm looking. I see where you're looking. I'm looking. What the fuck are you thinking about? I look at Dave. I gotta go like this. Remember Hollywood Squares? We're old.
Right?
We were just talking about the gauges on the pillar, and I like it. I still think it's.
Listen, it was a '90s thing,
Uh-huh.
You needed an extra tack in the dash to see what your RPM is.
Yeah. Yeah, you got 1,000 horsepower. You're staring at the tack. You're looking 1,500 feet down the road, trying to keep it out of the woods.
Never mind that the yellow light on top of the tack. That if you were behind him, you knew when he was shifting.
The shift light, yeah, the old shift light, huh? I remember seeing that guys take off down the track, blink, blink. You're like, oh, But so wheels, stock black interior, just a black car. Wheels polished, chrome. I'm guessing on a black. But what's your favorite style of wheel, David?
I like a lot. I like a lot of different style wheels. Obviously, all these new multi-piece wheels that come out. I mean, wheels are a funny thing. You can see pictures of them and they look cool. And I think a lot of people don't realize the difference between like an LMR pony wheel and a pony wheel from this guy that's making the three-piece wheels. I mean, Victory. It's like you could just see the quality in the wheel. Some of the wheels Carl has. The CCWs, and when you see those wheels in person versus pictures, you're like, oh, that's why those things are so expensive. I mean, they just the quality, you can see it. At least I can.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, Carl?
Absolutely. I mean, listen, obviously everybody's budget is not into a CCW or a Forge line, and that's totally understandable.
Or even a three-piece forged wheel. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, regardless of that, there's manufacturers that fit everybody's budget in their wallet. You might see a lot more SVE wheels or LMR wheels or whatever it may be out there in retrospect to the more expensive wheels because they wanted to do a better paint job and they didn't have the resources to pay for a nicer set of wheels. I understand it. A lot of the guys that really push their cars to the limit understand the quality in a multi-piece wheel that's forged as opposed to a cast wheel that looks like a two-piece wheel but is a one-piece wheel. You hit a pothole with that, it's game over.
Right.
Yeah.
It's gonna crack, bend.
It's unrepairable. You got to buy another ring.
Yeah.
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 So
I think I saw a cast wheel on your car in the past.
who?
No, not you, David Benson. Carl's like, who, me? Weren't you rocking the BBS RKs there for a while?
That's not actually cast, John.
It's not a cast wheel?
No, it's not. BBS never made a cast wheel.
It's a one-piece wheel
It's a
though.
forged wheel.
Okay.
So-
Oh, is it? Is it forged?
BBS never did a cast wheel.
So they're forged. BBS.
Yeah.
Okay. Were you rocking the RKs there for a while, David?
Yeah, I have a set of RKs and I have a set of RK2s that were custom made for me. That have the bolts
Yeah.
in by
Yeah.
the spokes.
You had a
And
guy.
then they have the small-
You cut
small
your
holes
center
in the
out.
center.
They cut the center
Yeah.
out and they used it into a two-piece.
Is this right? Is it right here, the RK2s, David?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, this
It's
is what I
weird.
was.
I don't know, my pictures sometimes when they come up, they look blurry, and then when I look at them on my phone, they're crystal clear. I don't know. Like when I look at that, like it doesn't look as detailed as like when I see the picture on my phone. It's weird.
And Dave, are you mini
Yeah.
tubs?
Yeah, my car's mini tubbed. That car has a shortened 9-inch rear end in it. Billet center section. Ordered it right from Strange. Gave them all the measurements.
Mm-hmm.
The car has adjustable floor pan. It's got the battle boxes, so no factory torque boxes there. It was all welded in. I have, in my phone, I have pictures of the build right along the way. At one point, I'll never forget it. It was a Friday night, and the guy that tore the car apart for me had the car completely disassembled. I mean, motor, drivetrain, everything out by Saturday afternoon from Friday night. The interior was on the floor in the corner. I'm like, and I remember looking at the car going, this thing's never going back together again.
What did I just do?
What did I do? This is never going to go back together again.
Now, is this a guy? Is this a guy or a shop or somebody doing it on the side?
Yeah, it was a shop. The car actually started at one shop and then ended up being finished at another shop, just because I felt the first guy it was just taking too much time.
This is the guy that took the car apart in
Yeah.
under 12 hours?
Yeah. You know how it is, Carl. You start getting fabricators involved, and
Oh, I'm going through it right now.
it's you take 2 steps forward, and sometimes you take 3 steps back.
Yep.
You know, this particular car, my black car now, like I had the whole exhaust system fabricated on the car. I brought the car to a fabrication exhaust shop, and they made the exhaust on the car because nothing fits. You buy a set of headers, and oh, this doesn't fit because you had to modify this, or you had to modify that. So my whole exhaust system on that car was custom made, piece by piece, from the headers to the X pipe, all the way back on the car while it was at the shop.
You had a custom set of headers made for the car too?
Everything, yep.
Oh, okay.
Made right on the car. We brought the car to the shop, and the guy made the headers piece by piece right on the car. I had cooks. They'd hang too low, you know, and it was
Wait,
like,
really?
What are we doing here?
We know about that, right, Carl?
Oh yeah.
The long tubes.
So, you know, stuff you learn over the years, you know, it might cost a little more up front, but it saves you a lot of headaches down the road. So yeah, so that exhaust was custom made to the car. I can send you some pictures afterwards offline. Everything's just tucked up there, beautiful, like it was meant to be, you know.
What about the rest of the suspension, David? What are you running on that car?
Racecraft stuff. It's got Viking 10-way adjustables in the back, up front, just racecraft arms. I forget what the strut is up front on that. I think it's just a strange adjustable strut up front, coil over. Nothing crazy, you know. When I was building the car, I was kind of going back and forth. It was kind of like it didn't know if it wanted to be a full-fledged race car or if it was going to be a street car, and it kind of landed somewhere in between. You know, like I said, it's got the short and rear end. It makes good power. It's turned down a little bit for the street.
Air condition?
No AC.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's in Mass. I mean, it doesn't really get that
Yeah.
hot up there.
No AC.
He's close to Canada. Come on. I mean, the Canadian guys.
Close to Canada.
Well, anybody above
Like
New
3
York,
hours away from you.
yeah, north is like, that's fucking Canada. That's where all the cold weather in the winter comes from. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But, so no AC, huh?
No AC in the car. It's got electric power steering, and it's got power brakes. I put one of those EPS systems in it where it's got an electric motor that goes up under the dash. You cut the steering column, and it sits up in there. I know a lot of guys do the Volvo pump and all that, but there was so much stuff on the car underneath. There's no, you know, you run out of places to put things, you know. It's all controlled by a Holley Dominator.
Well, unbeknown to us, as of now, they actually have retrofit kits for electric AC.
Yeah, you know, technology always changes.
Yeah.
You know, the game's always changed.
So you don't have to outrule air condition. You could actually have air condition that doesn't even look like it's in the car.
Right.
You know, you could mount the compressor in the trunk. You know,
Yep.
everything else, you're going to see the lines. So they
That's,
they have retrofit
rest-
kits.
Is it Resto Mod Air sells a kit for our car?
Well,
No?
they sell standard ones, but there's a couple of companies that make electric ACs that you can put them in anything. So it'll integrate into the venting system that's in the car.
So, David, you're not a big AC guy? You just drive the car in the...
Yeah, I mean, the state of my black car now is it's just, you know, it's something that you get in and you either, you know, take it out for just a romping, or, you know, you take it to go get ice cream, or you take it to a local Cars and Coffee. You know, I mean, it's just loud, it's obnoxious, you know, it's a big motor, you know, under boost. It's got like a bullet style muffler on it. I mean, I go down the street and, you know, the F1A, it sounds like a jet fighter coming down the road, you know, and the car's just so loud you can hear it blocks away. You know, it's not a tame, really, you know, street friendly drivable car. You know, it's
a monster. Yeah.
More the go than the show.
You don't want to take it on a long trip, huh? You're not driving
I wouldn't take it on. I wouldn't take it on a long trip. No, I drive it 20 minutes and I can't wait to get out of it.
So that's interesting. That's an interesting topic. We were talking about that, my buddies and I, while we were away at Jen's SN City Car Show in North Carolina this past weekend, about drivability and stuff like that with the car. Build a race car with 700, 800 horsepower, or would you rather just build like a nice street car, 450, 500 horsepower? So, if you could do it all over again,
I'll
would
tell
you
you
have?
the best one that I had. I had a '93 black on black coupe. Actually, Mark painted the car back in the day.
Mark
Sheslick, that we were talking about.
Schlitzkes?
We all
Okay.
butcher his name. Sheslick.
It's German. It's German. It's like the beer, Schlitzkes. Yeah. I mean, I don't know the name, but I can pronounce the last name.
That car had a 427 Windsor in it with a T-trim, T56 Magnum, and 355 gears in the rear end. The car made 680 to the tire on pump gas, and it was just had AC, Carl. Total driver AC, blue ice cold, made 680 to the tire, ran great. The cam was nothing radical, and I think that was really that's really, I think, for a push rod motor, big inch push rod motor, have AC, still make good power, still be drivable. That's about where you can go to. After that, it kind of gets crazy.
Why'd you sell that car, David?
You had an episode of ones you sold that you wish you could have back or something like that. That was one that I wish I didn't sell.
That's the one, huh?
Truly one that I wish I didn't sell. I wish I had kept it.
So you'd if you could find that car, you'd purchase it and park it in your garage next to this
I found
one.
the car, and again, the car had a mint black interior. When I say mint, I mean it was a 9.5 out of 10. I mean, you couldn't find scuffs on the kick panels, nothing. I mean, it was mint. And the guy that I sold it to down in Georgia turned around and ripped the interior out of it, put Corbo bucket seats in it, threw the back seat out, put in a rear seat delete, put gauges in the dash, pulled the dash cluster out and put all those auto meter gauges in the dash.
Oh my God.
He literally destroyed the car. And when I saw it, I couldn't believe it.
That's a shame.
Yeah. It was really a shame. But that was a great car. Great riding car.
We plan on,
Reliable. Didn't give me any problems.
you plan on owning another Coyote swap Fox?
I've been looking if the right car comes up. I might dabble in one again. Obviously, I'd look to buy something that was already done rather than try to build something again. Just for the sheer
Time.
fact of
Time.
time. Yes.
As we get older, right, Carl? You talk about that all the
About it
time.
all the time, Dave. The older we get,
Yeah.
we look for the best example that we want to build. I don't want to go into a restoration shop and have to deal with 2-3 years of nonsense. Find the best car, and you build that car, despite who you piss off. Because you're going to get the guys that you're going to piss off. Why'd you do it to that car? Why didn't you find out a clapped out car? No.
Right.
Find the best example and build it. It'll save you a lot of time.
Right.
So anybody listening,
This is
listening,
this is an older guy's perspective. This is our perspective.
You gotta
I mean, if you were in your 20s or 30s, right?
Think about this, right? Even if you're in your 20s or 30s, right? If you're going to spend more for the car that's right to build, instead of getting a cheap car that you got to make right for yourself, you're spending more money. You see the rates of these body shops and these paint jobs, they're through the fucking roof.
Yeah.
And it's not because they're price gouging, because material costs went up. So if you can get yourself a solid car that's mint, it doesn't have to have 0 miles on it. You get a car with some mileage on it, but the body's perfect. There's no ruts, there's no rot. It's a numbers matching car. Bro, have at it.
You don't wind up in paint jail.
Paint jail, yeah.
So David, I actually, Carl brought up the whole Coyote swap thing, and I wanted to ask you that question. The difference between the push rod and the Coyote, you've owned both.
Yep.
Which one do you prefer for a kind of like a street car, a cruise, or something that you're going to go out? What do you think of the reliability, the the drivability between the two? You've owned both.
I'm not gonna lie. I do like the Coyote car, but for a Fox, in my mind, it's just that classic push rod. That's what belongs in the car to me. I can appreciate the reliability, the comfort of the Coyote swaps, and what Carl's doing with this, roadster shop chassis. And I mean, it's not going to be a Fox. It's gonna look like a Fox, but it's far from a Fox.
That's we did to that one too.
Yeah.
That one's on roadster shop chassis as well.
Okay.
Spec chassis, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Being around since the beginning with these things, it's just a nostalgia thing for me as far as the push rod setup goes. But I do get the attraction of the Coyote swap. It's nice to get in. Don't sound the same.
Yeah, that's a given. But
Doesn't feel the same.
throw the nostalgia out the window. Right? Throw out the sound. Well, keep the sound, right? It sounds like to me, the car you have now, you built yourself a big push rod monster, right?
Yeah.
You don't really like to drive it far. You probably only take it out a couple times a year.
Yep.
It sits in the garage most of the year. You don't really get to enjoy it, right? So if you had to do it all over again, it's like a car that you would drive more often. If that were the goal, would you build a push rod small block Ford, or would you build a Coyote? Would it be a push rod, maybe?
I'd still do a push rod. Like I said, that black coupe that I had with the 6-speed and the 427 Windsor and the T-trim, that was a great, fun car. The car was a blast. It had just enough power, and it just drove well. I wouldn't be afraid to drive it anywhere, and it was just a great car. But I would stay push rod.
You would stay push rod, okay? Yeah, for the sound and the nostalgia.
Yeah.
So don't take those things out.
If you want an S550, you want a Coyote, just go buy a new S550. It's a lot more comfortable than a Fox. Exactly, Carl.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
That's why I have one of each. The teal car is going to stay push rod, and I'll have the red car as a Coyote. But I have one of each. I do like the push rod sound. There's no denying that,
Yeah.
But unless it's totally stock like that one, the red car just left me hanging too many times with little.
Yeah, you had some
BS
bad
issues.
luck with that motor, huh?
Well, I beat it up and I kind of snapped the distributor rod down to the oil pump. That's what happened at Ponies last year. The motor we got back up and running within a couple of weeks. It was just a matter of changing the shaft, and while he had the motor apart, we just freshened everything up. There was no damage. We wound up selling the motor to another friend of ours that was doing a build, and he needed a drivetrain, so we got rid of that. And
You had planned to do Coyote all along, so it just...
right. So originally, believe it or not, that chassis was supposed to be in the teal car with a drivetrain. And I really didn't want to have two cars apart in the shop, taking two cars apart, because the red one was already apart for the pushrod motor. And when that car came apart, the chassis shows up on a flatbed, from roadster shop. So needless to say, since that car was apart, that's the direction we went. This car's already modified. Let me just go full Monty on it. And the direction went from that car now getting the Detroit Speed SLA kit, and we're going to do a nice little pushrod motor in it with a cam, nothing too crazy. Nice little 500 horsepower car, to not really take the roots away from the teal Cobra, so to speak.
Right. Nice.
You just switched the build plan around.
Yeah,
because...
my hand was forced because I don't have the floor space to keep two cars, in pieces until, like you said, the fabricators decide they want to help and, let's do the exhaust and let's do this, let's do that. And they keep you on, keep you hanging. Like I got a deposit for a spot and I can never get in. How about that?
It's the same story everywhere. You hear everybody talk about it in every
around the
state.
country, it's the same story.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but no matter, it's not even about the dollar amount. I think the fabricators they don't know how to put a time on something. So when he tells me I'll have you in 2 weeks, and I show up to his shop, there's still a line of the same line of cars that was there 2 weeks earlier. Like, yo, what's going on? Are you sleeping at the wheel? What is it?
Some of them are.
Well, you know what it is. I think they're not this younger generation, because he's in his 30s. This guy, he doesn't have a grasp. He doesn't want to say no to work, but he doesn't really put a realistic time frame on what a particular build is going to take him, and he'll just say 2 weeks. So I'll schedule something with 2 weeks, and I put it in my calendar, give him a ring, find out what's going on. He don't answer his phone, so I show up to the shop. Yeah, I knock on his door.
Well,
Hey, Joe, what's going on?
Don't you know he told the 10 people that walked in before you 2 weeks and the 10 people after?
But, you know,
they just,
he-
unfortunately,
This particular guy is hindering the start of this motor, because I can't pull this. We can't start the car up until the O2s are on, and
yeah.
you can't move forward unless that part of the job is done. So the car's
Yeah.
taking up space in a friend's shop that shouldn't be there. So what we're going to do next week is I'm going to bring the car to my shop so you can use that lift, so it's not killing the space, and I'll just put it here, you know.
It sucks because, you know, a bunch of these guys, they may be great at what they do,
He's awesome.
the trade, but they have no formal business experience or education. They just, unfortunately, not all, but they just, when it comes to scheduling and running a business, it's really not their forte. So
It depends on the workload too. I mean, you know,
And they don't know how to say no.
Custom fabrication of parts and stuff like that. You know, you might run into issues when you're fabricating stuff. You know, it doesn't turn out the way that you did, or you know, the way you wanted it to, or you know, definitely took longer than you thought it would.
But initially, when he did the exhaust the first time for me, right, when it was just on the chassis, I had the exhaust done. 3 days.
yeah,
3 days. Wednesday.
like holy shit.
Yeah, 3 days. I picked it up Saturday morning. You know, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow, this is the guy. This is the guy. Now
I found my guy.
Now it's 2 months to get into. You know, for the last 2 weeks, it's been 2 weeks every 2 weeks. So.
Yeah.
And I noticed
Yeah.
he did so much of the work. I don't want to go anyplace else, because he had. Is anybody going to match his welding skill?
Well, they know. I mean, like you said, things change on a build, but Mark used David used a perfect example earlier about the guy that tore his car apart in 10 hours, right? But then wound up taking way too long. He had to bring it to another shop. They'll tell you 2 weeks to get you in there. They tear you apart on day one. Now your car's in pieces, and it just sits, and you have no other choice. This is some of the shit that, especially with the body shops, they do all this shit. So, which is even more of a reason why you say find the cleanest example, David. I'm sorry. I just want to switch gears here because we're kind of going off topic. I want to talk to you about your current black car. So, you talked about the suspension, the wheels, the paint. What transmission are you running in that car?
Currently, it has a 4L80E in it.
Okay.
Yeah. It's had a few different things. And I had a Power Glide with gear vendor's overdrive in it at one point. I had a T56 Magnum level 7 in it. Stick
What
shift.
happened to that? What happened?
I took it out. I had that in there when it still had the twin turbos on it, and I don't know why, but my tuner just couldn't get the car to run right. It just there was a problem between like 1600 and 2000 RPMs. The thing would load up on fuel, and with the automatic, you never noticed it because the converter would flash and it would flash up past that point, and you would never notice it. But with the stick, every time I was at a red light and went to take off, it would load up on fuel. And I brought it back to him 3 or 4 times to try to get the tune right. And he basically just kind of threw his hands up in the air and didn't know, what the issue was. So then I started having problems, like I said, with the heat with the twin turbos. Pulled those off. Put the blower on it. The car really makes too much power for an old guy with a stick. Like I said, when I drive that car, I just kind of put it in gear and focus down the road about 1,500 feet and try to keep it straight, Watch
out for an old guy with a stick.
Yeah. I don't want to. I don't
Hold
want
on,
anyone.
hold on. That was a lame joke. Hold on. I gotta break this
Get your
out.
mask on,
I gotta
kid.
break this out. All right. Carl loves this, right, Carl? I'll put my shiesty on. Are you pointing at me because you're on the other screen, Carl?
Yeah, well, you're bouncing around. I don't know what's going on.
What the hell is going on with this episode? It never did this before. They're all bouncing around. I'm trying to track Carl. I'm trying to track David. Either regardless, you did mention you bought a crate motor, but I don't. You may have, and I apologize. But what type of motor is in the car?
The motor is a dot block from Bennett Racing. A guy local to me had bought it. He was going to build a race car. Long of the short, had some financial problems. I bought the motor for short money, and that's where the transformation, began with the car. Needlessly, really. I mean, I had a dot block 306 in it with a Novi 2000 blower, and I had that old style Vortec Igloo intercooler on the top. The car made like 758 to the tire. It was more than I needed. It was plenty for the street.
Were you able to get that? Were you able to get that intake underneath? What kind of hood?
I had a cowl hood, and we had to cut it just for the cooler to pop out of the top of it.
I know that's a common thing with that with that intake.
Yeah,
it's a cool little piece. But
definitely a race item. Well, now I think it's 417 Motorsports has the shorter intercooler itself that you can use on that hat, and it will. I think it's like 1.5 inches or 2 inches shorter, which at the time for me probably would have cleared the hood. But the old style Vortec one was pretty thick.
Because you have like a one. Is it a 1.5 inch cowl on there? Is that a steel 1.5 inch cowl?
That's a 2-inch steel hood. Yeah.
It is a 2 inch steel. Okay,
Yeah.
It looks smaller in the photo, but it looks nice.
It's a 2-inch steel hood, and that's for clearance purposes.
And what are you running on there now? What type of intake? You may have mentioned it. I'm sorry. The ADT factor.
Just a Wilson elbow on an Edelbrock Victor Senior intake.
What are you running there? 363, 347? What do you?
It's a 427 Windsor.
427. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
351 base motor.
Yeah.
Intercooled. It's got the
Air to air?
5-inch Pro Charger intercooler on it.
Yeah. That's air to air, right, Carl? Pro Charger.
Yeah. It's an air to air. Yeah. Yeah. I run a methanol kit in it just to be safe, but it's tuned on pump gas. And a shot of meth just to be safe.
So you've had all those heating problems. You want to make sure running with the
guy that tunes my car, he's great. He's got a great racing pedigree, great street car tuner, but he always keeps everything a little conservative. You don't want to be responsible for blowing up motors, so he always leaves them just a little bit fat.
Especially a motor like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know how it is, Carl. And you talked about it before on previous episodes, John. You start dumping so much money into these cars, and it's like you don't want to drive it all the time because you've got so much tied up in it. I mean, I probably spent, a fraction of what you guys spend nowadays, but like I probably spent $150,000 on this car, 8 years ago building it, which was a lot of money back then. Now it's like
Think about if you had to duplicate that now.
Yeah. I mean, perfect example, price of the parts. I mean, I got Willwood rear disc brakes on it. I had to buy a new kit because one of the brackets got bent, and they wouldn't sell me the bracket Willwood, so I had to buy the whole brake kit over again. I pulled up my receipt from 5 years ago, and I paid $700 for the whole brake kit. Now it's $1,250. Same brake kit. Nothing different, same part.
They wouldn't sell you the bracket, really?
They wouldn't sell me the bracket. Told me I had to buy the whole kit. They wouldn't sell me the bracket.
That's pretty shitty on their part.
What you should have did was if you took that bracket off, send it to somebody to scan it and duplicate it, and you could sell that other rear kit to recoup some of the money.
Right.
I think I've heard somebody talk about that with the issue with those brackets, right? I think I've heard something about that on a podcast somewhere about the brackets. Yeah, I think this is the second time I've heard someone talk about this in the last couple of months. Anyway, regardless. So did you put the car, the current iteration, did you put it on a dyno? What are you doing with this thing, David?
Yeah, I mean the car's made as much as 1150, and now it's turned down. It's 8 and some change.
On pump gas?
Yeah, on pump gas and meth. Yeah, yeah,
No E85.
Okay.
But if you were running E85, you wouldn't need the meth.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
E85. I don't know how it is for you guys, but around here it's hard to get.
On
There's
Long
only two
Island,
stations
there's
that-
plenty, but I don't run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
there's only two
Staten
stations
Island,
in Massachusetts that have E85 at the pump.
Staten Island, we don't have a single gas station with the 85. I got to drive 25, 30 miles west into like the one of maybe 6 gas stations in the whole state of New Jersey just to get E85. So drive there, drive back. It's
I went through
it's
there
60
with
miles.
my Fat House Fab car from my S550 that I got from Fat House. Every time you need E85, you got to travel for it. Or you got to store it. Now you're storing 5-gallon drums at your house. Hoping the shed don't blow up.
My wife's been really cool with the hobby, but if I started storing E85, she'd fucking shoot me.
Yeah.
You wouldn't see me anymore. I'd be like, oh, where did John go? I'd be
He's in the garage smoking next to E.
Smoking with the E85. Oh, that's fucking perfect, right?
Yeah.
It's a hell of a way to go. So, David, before we let you go, we like to ask our guests, who besides their own car, what's their favorite car out there? And before we got started, we asked you that question, and you mentioned them here, and you previously here you mentioned Mark Schlitzkis.
Yeah,
Is
his
85? Is it 85 or 86
Yeah,
black 4i?
4i, yeah. I mean, that car is just gorgeous. I mean, if you could go online, you can find some video clips of that thing idling.
Yeah.
It just sounds phenomenal.
Well, if you see,
You guys see it?
if you
Sure,
see
yeah.
that paint job, the underside of that car looks just as good as the top side.
Yep,
He had mirrors underneath that car.
yep.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, his workmanship is just...
And I don't think that's his full-time gig either. He works someplace and he does this on the side, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, yeah, Yeah.
He's an artist. I've seen it.
yeah.
I hadn't heard of this guy. I mean, I guess he keeps a pretty low profile on the socials, which is pretty cool. The first time I had heard of him when we were running that baddest Foxbodies of 2025 earlier this year in the group. Caleb from Foxcast Media did a video, and he's like, "You want to see the baddest Foxbody?" And then he featured these 2 cars by Mark, and I'm watching the video, and I'm just. My mouth was open. I was just blown away by the level of detail. I'm like, you know what, man?
Yeah,
You're
his car
right.
is super nice. His red car is just like that was like one of the first cars that were just like over the top.
The red car.
Yeah, his red car is just like, and it's more race orientated. I don't think it doesn't have AC, but under the hood, super clean. Everything's hidden, twin turbo. Everything's polished. Just crazy.
I think I saw a video of him going down the drag strip with that thing, and then saw a video after, and the car underneath was just. I mean, you could eat off it with all those polished parts. I'm like, how does this guy do that?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. And I think Caleb actually.
He's building a Gen 1 Lightning, kind of like mirroring what he's doing on. I think it's black too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know someone told me he's more into the trucks now, right? He's been doing a lot of these.
Yeah, I think he's got an older F100 too.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, this black car that you have posted up right there, that thing is just beautiful.
Well, he's got the RC comps. I mean, I heard that. I mean, you could see it in the photo here, but the body lines, the gap, everything. It looks like a professional shop.
Right.
built
And he
car.
did it in his house, dude.
Yeah. Here's another angle.
Craftsman.
I mean, how does a guy do this on the side? Does anybody know what he does for a living?
No.
Oh my God.
He kind of keeps a low profile, but I'll tell you, the stuff that he has is just unbelievable. Like I said, he took that around, was it 2 years ago, Carl?
Yep.
And I mean, just
Didn't he
best
win
enjoyable.
Foxtoberfest? Didn't he win Foxtoberfest like 4 years ago with this
I
car?
don't, I think it
I
was,
don't know if it
I
was
don't think it
4
was
years
at
ago,
Fort,
but-
I don't think it was at Foxtoberfest. I think it was at Motor City, I believe he won. And,
Oh, look at
they
this.
parked me like right next to this guy. And we were chopping it up for about 3 or 4 hours. That car, legitimately, I crawled underneath the bottom of that car. I couldn't. I said, "Who wet sands the bottom? Who wet sands the bottom of a car?"
Yeah.
Mark.
It's absolute. It looked like the car was dipped in black paint and just came out killer. Everything about the car is just. Look at all the fender gaps, the body lines. Everything was just straight.
The interior is
Stock
stock clean.
interior.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Over
Yeah,
1,000
wow.
Over 1,000 horsepower at the tire. Just a beautiful car.
Does that say 36,000 miles on that car? I mean, maybe 36,747?
Looks like it.
Is my eyes going there? Yeah, all stock. Look.
Oh, beautiful.
So he found himself a clean example, it looks like here, Carl, right?
It's a possibility.
Yeah.
Possibility.
I mean, just look at that car.
Yeah, that
Mark?
car does it for me.
If you're listening, buddy, you build some badass cars. Love to see you build another one. I actually heard that there might be some changes here on this car. This car might have been for sale recently. So that's the word on the street. But now I'm hearing there's changes coming to it. So maybe there'll be a 2.0 version of this car. Maybe.
Time will tell.
Kind of like you, David, maybe just got bored and started ripping stuff out and says, I'm going to redo stuff.
Like air
No
conditioning.
more. I gotta get my electric air conditioner.
Will we be seeing you at any of the events, David, with the car?
You know, I don't unfortunately get around to much of them.
Carlisle's in a
popped
couple of weeks.
I
It is
popped
close.
in last summer to the one they had out there in Springfield, Mass. I know a couple of you guys were out there.
Northeast Fox Frenzy?
Yeah,
Frenzy.
Fox Frenzy there. Yeah. I think I had my S550 that day. I think it was a good thing because I sat in traffic on the Mass Pike for like an hour trying to get there.
We drove 4 hours. We took an hour-long ferry ride. Come on,
Yeah.
David.
Yeah.
You had it easy. Are you planning to go back to that show in September this year?
I probably will because it's just so close to home, busy work schedule, busy life. I don't have the free time like you guys do.
What do you mean? I'm still at work.
Right?
Yeah. Carl's always filming at the shop here. So, David, anything you want to say to the listeners before we cut this off?
I mean, just everybody, keep doing what you're doing, keeping you guys doing a great job with this podcast, just, keeping the Foxbody alive. That's really what it's all about, There's no right or wrong. It's do what you like and have at it.
Excellent. All right. So, everybody, you got to meet the famous David Benson for the first time on a podcast. I'm surprised nobody else has brought you on. We were happy to be the first to do it, David. Always like speaking to the people we see out there on the interwebs, talking shit, building nice cars. You can put this on, David. You can put this on. Yeah, David.
No,
Yeah.
just call it like I see it. That's all.
He's calling balls and strikes. So, David, thank you for joining us tonight.
Appreciate you guys having me.
Everybody, do the thing, like, share, subscribe, and thank you for watching.
Thank you, David.
All right, guys, have a great night, huh?
You too, bro.
Thank you, buddy. David, hang out. Don't leave yet. Hold on. Hold on.